And now, live from the 13 Now Digital News Desk, this is the Friday Night Fever Afterburn, sponsored by Peden Heating and Air Conditioning.
Welcome to Friday Night Fever Afterburn, Week 6 of the high school football season. In the books, over. We are more than halfway through the high school football season, and we got a lot of games to talk about tonight. Starting off with our scores, we're going to look. Kaleigh, tell us about this first page of scores. You were over at our game of the week, that is, Port St. Joe and Blountstown.
Yeah, Port St. Joe picking up that win at home over, one of those rivals, Blountstown. And then over here at Bay, they picked up a shutout over North Bay Haven, 48-0. Over at Bozeman, Freeport picked up a win in the second half, winning that one 34-24. And Sneads, remaining undefeated, picking up a win over Liberty County, 34-0.
That's right. And then Mosley over in Childs, they were up 21-6 at the half against the Timberwolves. Childs scoring 22 unanswered points. I know any Mosley fans not excited about that long trip home tonight. Childs getting a big district win. Mosley falling to 1-1 in district play. Godby and Marianna. Godby, they got the win over there, 22-14 on the road in Marianna, West Florida. They came out having 50 points on the board on Walton. That is no joke because we know that Walton defense is the real deal. 50-29, Walton gets their first loss of the season. Then we got Cottondale. They won their second straight game. They won 30-14 over Weewha-Hitchcock.
Holmes County traveling over to Vernon. Another shutout, winning that one 42-0. South Walton played on Wednesday. They picked up a win over here, over playing Bay, 46-6. Rutherford.
Same thing.
Yeah,
Not
same
really.
stadium. And then Franklin picking up a win 33-7.
So we're going to get into those. Those are the scores that we have right now. Yes, Franklin County, we are all over the place. Long night, already late. We're going to say good evening to Coach Olds. We are going to get into our game of the week, 24-6, like you said. Tell us a little bit about that matchup.
Well, there was a lot of penalties. I mean, every other play almost had a penalty on it, and that's something Blountstown head coach Greg Jordan talked about. He said the team that makes more mistakes will most likely lose this game. And I mean, that did kind of end up to be true. Both teams are making plenty of mistakes. Blountstown maybe just a couple more when I was there. I mean, the second half, Blountstown didn't score anything, so I don't know how it went from there. But I mean, Port St. Joe was ready to attack. Obviously, they're missing DJ Oliver. He was on the sideline, but not dressed or anything, so he probably won't be playing for a little bit. But, they still have plenty of talent in PJ. And, I mean, Devin Catino had a great game. Overthrew a couple balls, but I think the penalties was the biggest issue for this team, but with both teams. But the defenses looked strong on both sides. I mean, Blountstown had 2 picks. One was a pick 6. One just got them closer to the end zone. But again, the Port St. Joe defense and some penalties, they were unable to make anything out of it. But I mean, I think it was really exciting for Port St. Joe to have that win at home over a competition like Blountstown. And this might just be a hiccup for Blountstown. I think they could definitely bounce back from it, but I know they're not going to be happy with that one.
Right, and you were talking earlier when you were over going live before this game. Blountstown in the last, decade kind of has the edge in this series. They've won 6 of the last 9. Now that's going to make 6 of the last 10, now 4 in the favor of Port St. Joe. But this one is really big, especially heading into the postseason and when they get into SSAC play. Last year, Blountstown, they were the SSAC North Florida League champions. Port St. Joe, they were over in the Gulf Coast, or not the Gulf Coast Cup. I'll have to go back and look at which one that Port St. Joe won last year. But this is going to be big moving into SSAC rankings. And then again, Port St. Joe getting a big win over there. We're going to talk about Bay and North Bay Haven. Bay has had 2 weeks off in a row. They won this one big, 48-0. And like you said, there was a lot of penalties in your game. There was a lot of penalties in this one. The whole first quarter probably lasted about 45 minutes. It took forever to get out of that.
I think I saw more yellow flags tonight than in my entire life.
It was very much the same over at this one. And, a lot of people expecting Bay to kind of jump out quick. And it was only 6-0 at the end of the quarter in Bay's favor. And then that defense, as you can see there, all over the place. That unit is spectacular. I mean, I could go on and name pretty much their entire unit of guys that are just absolute playmakers. They came out and got the job done tonight. Lakota Johnson, he is a young and talented quarterback, and he is somebody that is fantastic in baseball and football and will probably be a college player in a few years. But tonight he was having all kinds of nightmares with that blitz by Bay High. And as you can see here, this one by Pennywell diving on it in the end zone, things just started to cruise downhill fast for the Buccaneers, who were hanging around in the first quarter. But then after that, it was a very one-sided ball game. Bay wins this one 48-0. They are going to improve to 4-1 on the season, 1-0 in district play. Now on a 4-game win streak. They came in this week as the 7th-ranked 2S team in the state. So Bay, a lot of momentum right now. Again, North Bay Haven, a young team this year. So we'll have to see how the rest of the district schedule goes. But right now, 1-0 for Bay, and I know they are excited over there. We're going to look at some of those comments. We know Blountstown had a bad night. I would have to agree. Blountstown did have a bad night. See what happened to Blountstown quarterback. Not quite sure. Josh Pope, is he all right over there? I know Roger Pope might have an answer to that one.
He looked fine when I was there. I just think the Port St. Joe defense kind of just was ready to attack, and they couldn't get that momentum they needed. And if they did, penalties, all of those things. So it just wasn't working for them. I mean, we talked about Marianna Hoover being a big piece for Blountstown, and he just didn't have that momentum tonight because I think Port St. Joe just had them red.
Right, and this is kind of like, in the Bay and Port St. Joe game. That was a game that if you look at the score, you were like, wow, like Port St. Joe got blown out of the water. But when you're actually at the game and you kind of see, the penalties and the mistakes, and they kind of roll and roll and roll and snowball and snowball and snowball, I have a feeling that was probably similar to what happened tonight with Port St. Joe, this time going in St. Joe's favor and against Blountstown. And sometimes those scores not all that telling, but St. Joe, a big, huge win tonight.
Yeah.
Bay 48-0. That one was all one-sided. Freeport and Bozeman, we're going to talk about that one a little bit because we had Courtney out at that game, and, she was like, again, going to talk about Kendall here. We talked about her a couple weeks ago, coming off of brain surgery just a few weeks. That's just an awesome moment to see her out there, and her brother was playing lights out for her. That's Colton G. that is out there playing great. We'll see him make a few clashes in a second. But yes, big storyline tonight is Peyton Gay. Coming off an injury, he was cleared to play on Wednesday, cleared to get back out there. Clearly not 100%, doesn't have the wheels that he normally has. He's definitely a dual-threat quarterback, and tonight he didn't have that, that threat of just running down the field and making those plays. And Freeport, they took advantage. You saw the pick six, and then in the second half, they went into the half up. Bozeman went into the half up, 16-8, I believe it was, or 16-7, something like that. And then Freeport came back and won 34-24. So this one, again, similar to the Port St. Joe and Blountstown game, going to have some serious playoff implications because right now, with those rankings, Bozeman on the outside looking in, and with a loss tonight, that one is really going to hurt them as their schedule's about to ramp up. This really could be one that we look back, 4 or 5 weeks from now. We know this was like the nail in the coffin. This was the one to really, put them down unless Bozeman can get some momentum. But I will say tonight, 34-24. What do you think about this one?
Well, I mean, the tough part about it is we didn't get to see Freeport kind of just light up the field in the second half. Courtney was only there for the first half. But I will say from Bozeman, I think the Peyton Gay, Colton G connection, that's, I think, my favorite little duo in high school football right now. They're just, they just connect so well, and it's so fun seeing what the two of them can do. So I'm happy he was back out on the field. He had that interception on his first time seeing the field, so I think he had to ease into it. But I think when you have someone like Colton G there, I love watching them.
No, like you mentioned, and I'm going to throw a shameless plug. If you haven't seen it, go to our website, mypanhandle.com. Look up the story. Search Colton G. Search, Bozeman player makes remarkable catch, because that is a story. If you haven't seen it, it is a fantastic story. Making a game-winning catch a few weeks back for his sister the week of his sister having brain surgery, doing it in her honor.
And then
that
her
was
being
incredible.
there and having a great game.
And then tonight, her coming out and leading the game. I know Bozeman would like to win, but, sometimes you got to pick, those are your wins, just having those moments like that. So Bozeman definitely didn't, like the results tonight, but we're really excited to see Kendall G out there.
And then we have an update on Josh Pope.
Right. I heard the Blountstown quarterback got injured. Roger Pope says hit his head hard, but doing better. We like the news on that. We don't like any head injuries, anything of that sorts. But we're going to hope that Josh is okay. Hopefully he is the leader of that team for sure. And I know they're going to need him moving into the rest of the season. But let's talk about those Sneads Pirates. I'm going to let you take over this one. 34-0. Tell me what you thought in this matchup.
I'm really excited to see what Sneads is going to do. I mean, they've already had such a great season. And that was something at the beginning of the season that they talked about. They were talking about how, some schools don't really know who they are and they're very overlooked. And I mean, they're an hour and a half out of this way. So, and they're a smaller school, but I think they're really proving that. And I think that was a point the players wanted to make this season. I mean, and when you have someone like Jason Patterson, I think really anything's possible. So, and he's been so exciting to watch. And it's not just him though. I mean, this team, they shutting out Liberty County like that. I mean, I haven't seen Liberty County play, this season, but I know they've had a couple good weeks. So I think this is a real impressive win for Sneads and something that they needed.
Right, and like we mentioned, Jason Patterson coming into this week as the #1 rusher. That's through all classifications, #1 rusher in the entire state of Florida. We'll have to check the stats after this week, see if he's still on top of the leaderboard, but he was up with a little bit of cushion. So the top running back in the state right now as far as rushing goes, Patterson, he's really leading that team, and that offensive line, they are remarkable. Yes, Sneads dominated Liberty County. That is right. Sneads 34-0. Again, last year, in the last week of the season, we had Sneads getting the win. They went into the playoffs. Then Liberty County in the playoffs beat Sneads. And so, Sneads, they really wanted this one. They brought it. I'm sure. They brought it tonight, 34-0. Mosley and Childs. I know for anybody, I'm going to assume probably not very many Mosley fans watching right now. After tonight, I probably wouldn't want to watch when you have a game that goes in that direction. But 22 unanswered points for Childs. And what do you think of this one coming into district play?
It's just, it's very surprising to me. Mosley looked to really clean up these past couple weeks and looked really impressive. And I think they showed that in the first half, but the defense not allowing 22 unanswered points and the offense not being able to answer any of those really surprises me. So I'm very curious to know what happened in that second half, because that just doesn't sound like Mosley at all. So, I'm very surprised by this, but I think anything that doesn't go Mosley's way, they will bounce back. And I think, that happened against Bay. They bounced back from there. This happened. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they have another big game next week bouncing back from that. But, a very surprising loss for Mosley.
Right, and Mosley in a very tough district over there. A lot of, of those Tallahassee teams. They got Niceville as well, who's a top 20 team in the state of Florida through all classifications. So from this point on, Mosley is really going to have to almost be perfect. They're going to have to really iron out some details, because this one is one that I know is going to really, really sting for them. They got the first district win of the season over Leon, and now this one, Childs, they would have loved to be sitting 2-0 right now before some of those big matchups come up. Now at 1-1, you got some work to do. And I know Sammy Freitas has been great over there for Mosley, but right now this one not great for Mosley, and we'll have to see how they bounce back. But we're going to see, yes, go Isaac, big things ahead. I know that's Isaac Paul. He's always out there doing his thing. We'll have to see how Mosley bounces back. Mosley, yes, they beat Wacola, lose to Childs. Like mentioned, I would say it is a little confusing, but that's how football goes. You never know how the ball's going to roll. And
so that was their third district game for Mosley.
Who have they had besides?
Wacola, Leon, and Childs.
Wacola was not district.
Okay.
Right. Wacola is 3S. Mosley is 4S. So, but yes, Wacola was a 5A school last year. Mosley a 6A school. So those kind of shifts are a little weird. I get confused with it all the time as well. If you're keeping up with the 4S and the 2S and the 3S and the 1R and all of that, good for you, because it's hard for us. But again, Godby and Marianna, 22-14 in Godby's favor. Marianna they're having a tough go. this year. And I was a little confused when we were watching because I was thinking, that kind of looks like blue. And then I was like, okay, it's the purple out there. But Marianna, they're having a tough go right now. They can't really get much to go their way. They did pick up a win over Rutherford a couple weeks back, but Godby, they got their first win of the season tonight. I believe this was their first win. This is the first or second win. So definitely a tough one over there, a one-score finish. What do you think of this game?
I feel like sometimes it does really help having a game back at home. The winless Godby, I think Marianna just struggled to connect. I think the Godby's defense kind of was ready to pounce on any flaws that Marianna had, and they did just that. I mean, two of the highlights here were picks from Godby, and so I think, again, I know they had two quarterbacks that they're looking at, and we're going to try to flip through the options. So I just think they have some edges to smooth out.
Right. Godby getting this one 22-14 up in Marianna. Let's check in on the rest of those scores. I think do we have highlights of any other games?
South Walton and Rutherford.
We did have on Wednesday night, again, a lot of shifts this week. If you kind of mentioned, we had a Tuesday night game. We had a Wednesday night game. Schools in Bay County were closed on Thursday. Decisions made earlier in the week with the threat of Hurricane Ian. Of course, everything shut down. That moved the game to Wednesday. It's beautiful weather all week over here. But this one, all South Walton from start to finish. You were over this game. Break this one down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, South Walton coming off that loss to Walton, so I think they were really ready to kind of put a win to this. And Carson Hawk looked really good, had 2 rushing touchdowns, so, just sneaking in there. He had a great throw at their second touchdown, missed that one, but really good for him. But I think, South Walton, again, was able to shut down Rutherford on defense, and then their offense, a little slow at times, but they were able to punch through and put up some big points over Rutherford.
Right. So again, this one 46-6 in South Walton's favor. This was everybody. If you haven't kind of seen the trend of this week, district openers all over the place. Some teams started district play last week, like we mentioned. Mosley 2 weeks ago got their win over Leon, but a lot of teams opening district play tonight. That one's big for South Walton. That's going to put them at 1-0 in district play. Bay 1-0, so now we got Bay and South Walton both undefeated in that district. So it looks like right now it's going to be South Walton and Bay for that district. The winner going to get an automatic bid. We've broken this down early in the season as far as the classifications go in the districts. In the 1R, we have the rural. Those are regions. And then in the suburban schools, we don't have any of the metro schools around here, just the suburban schools. You win your district, you're in. And then after that, it's the strength of schedule and the rankings by the FHSAA. Cottondale, again, at 30-14 win over Weewall. Walton, like we mentioned, we talked with them this week. Hopefully that wasn't a kind of a jinx on our part by checking in on them undefeated and shouting them out, and then they fell this week. Holmes County, big 42-0. They're right there on the inside of that playoffs with those rankings right now. And then Franklin County, again, falling 33-7. Is there any other game that we haven't mentioned that you really wanted to talk about tonight, Kaleigh?
Cottondale, I think that's exciting for them. Another win coming off that win over North Bay Haven last week. So I think Cottondale's really starting to find their rhythm. So good for them. Exciting for them.
Right. They definitely have some players. And last week, we were looking at some of the players. They have some really talented skill players.
Younger guys,
over there.
too.
Absolutely. Gonna give a shout out. Oh yes, that is right. I appreciate that for the reminder, John Brock. I know it's Friday Night Fever, but we are gonna give a shout out to the number 1 Liberty County volleyball team. They're the number 1 team in the state for Class 1A. They're still in 1A. They didn't move to the 1R. Liberty County, big win over Blountstown last night. Gonna give a shout out again. We got to the support for Mosley. I know those fans, they are really hurting tonight with the way that one fell, but a lot of Mosley fans, and I know they're excited to see Mosley back on their home field whenever that happens in a couple of weeks. But again, we have those games for next week, Spencer. Let's check out those games.
Yeah, Mosley's at home.
Mosley at home on Thursday night, so don't forget that. Mosley will be at Tommy Oliver on Thursday night against Navarre, and then on Friday, Marianna is going to be playing Bay. Bay looking for their 5th straight win. Rutherford going to be playing at Arnold. Two of the Bay County teams that are having a little bit of a down season. They'll get to battle over there. That should be a very tight matchup, in my opinion. Arnold with a high-flying offense. Rutherford has a pretty strong defense. Let's check out the next ones, Kaleigh.
Bozeman's going to head over to the new Destin football team. Vernon at Port St. Joe. They're coming off that win. Northview at Blountstown. Blountstown's definitely going to be looking to bounce back after the loss tonight. And Choctaw at South Walton.
Right, and
Northview beat Baker tonight.
Right, I was just about to bring that up. John Brock telling us that Northview beat Baker 49-10, so Northview is going to be coming in with some momentum. Blountstown looking to bounce back. They were able to bounce back when they lost to Wacola, so we'll see if they can do it next week. Cottondale is going to be at Franklin, Chipley at McLeod, Liberty County at Wewa-Hitchcock. We got a whole bunch of teams that are going to have the week off. So if you're looking next week and you're wondering, where's Walton, where's North Bay Haven, where's Graceville, where's Freeport, where's Holmes County, where's Sneads, they're taking the week off. So we'll have a little, we've been having about 6 games each week as far as highlights go. And then we're having all the scores. We'll always get all the scores of games that are played, or at least try to. But maybe next week, depending on which games are in the area, we'll have to see if we can get that full 6. But
slow week.
6 weeks into the season, we are more than halfway through. We've been saying this every week. Feels like the season just started.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts after week 6?
I think I'm just really excited for Sneads. I think they've just really had a breakthrough season so far, and players are doing what the players want to do and proving something. So I think they're going to be exciting to watch through the remainder, through tougher playoffs, all that. So I think they're going to be interesting to watch. And there's only, like we said earlier, 2 teams in the Panhandle, Chipley and Sneads, still undefeated. So
that's right. And if for those that knew Sneads from last year, that was a team that had a ton of potential. They started off strong, lots of injuries, especially Jason Patterson into that offensive line. Now they're healthy right now. They still got it going. They're looking great. They're undefeated. They're the highest ranked 1A team of our schools in the area. They came in at 7 this week. You might see them move up. We'll have to see how those rankings goes. Again, this week was the first time that the FHSA released their official rankings, which count towards the playoffs. If you see the teams inside the allotted playoff positions, they're in the playoffs as far as right now goes. Of course, that's going to be updated every single week until the actual playoffs. But Sneads right now looking good. They were a team that I was going to call, my dark horse, but now you can't call them your dark horse because they're the top team in the area. So last year, Chipley was my dark horse. Sneads, we'll have to find a new dark horse. But right now, Sneads does look very good. If you want to see the highlights of the games that we've posted, you're going to head over to mypanhandle.com. We'll have those up within the next hour. All of the highlights, all of the scores, all of the action, mypanhandle.com. And Spencer, is there anything else? All set? Anything else, Kaleigh?
No.
Well, that is going to do it for us for week 6 of the high school football season. A lot of teams having a big week, some not so much. That's how it goes, but that's it for us. We'll see you next week.